It's the Human First AI Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Montague at Avenue 9. You can find us at avenue9.com, doing all kinds of cool context creation for AI and audience connection for you and your business. My guest this week is Dave Poulos. He is the CMO at Granite Partners and author of the Marketing Doctor Survival Notes. And I'm really excited to talk to him because we're going to talk about all things malpractice and AI survival this week, especially with some big brands. Dave, you have quite the list of experience here working with, Coca-Cola, Cable and Wireless, American Airlines, lots of big brands here. National Geographic, that sounds fun.
They were great to work with.
Did you get any good trips out of it or just cool pics?
No, I got a good story about that. It's short. My best friend growing up's father worked as a cinematographer for National Geographic.
Awesome.
So I'm actually in one of their after school specials.
That's funny. I am actually in a PBS after school special about sportsmanship and athletics. I was a senior in high school and I played a couple of different sports, and my mom came on there with us to talk about, ethics and sportsmanship and stuff. It was pretty fun.
I didn't have that kind of depth. I was on screen for maybe 12 seconds. And it was interesting, though, because they showed that. It was reptiles and amphibians. And they showed that one in high school for the biology class in 10th grade. And so every year when 10th graders went through biology, I was like a rock star in high school because they recognized me.
That's awesome. Really good stuff. Okay, let's talk about the book. It's more important that you can find it at davidpoulos.com/book. Or I'm sure wherever you get your books these days, the Marketing Doctor Survival Guide. And I kind of feel like that's where I am with AI these days. It's like, it's all changing so fast. All the careers, I think, are going to kind of get jumbled up and disrupted in the next 5 to 7 years. That's my take. And if you got more than that amount of years left in your career, I think you need a survival guide to this. What's your take?
Well, I think we're all trying to survive. Things move so quickly. Every time I turn around, there's a new AI application. There's a new twist on it. There's a new way to use it. There's a new way to misuse it that has to be countered. There's always something. I think we're all just trying to fit in and figure out where we go. I heard an interesting quote yesterday from Mike Rowe from the
I love Mike Rowe.
Jobs. He said, for 10 years, we've been telling kids to go out and learn coding. Well, guess what? AI is going to get rid of all the coders. But it's not going to get rid of all the electricians, the plumbers, carpenters.
I keep telling people to get into robot repair, right? Like, if you're handy, that's going to be the job.
Yeah, that's like telling kids to learn how to build TV antennas. I mean, it only lasts for so long. You got to start looking forward to these things beyond the 4-year horizon for colleges and look beyond even that. And you're right, something like robot repair or personality programming or any of those things that will humanize the machines we're building to try and replace ourselves. It's fascinating to see what could be in terms of a career coming up.
I think so too. And I think for marketers, a lot's changing here too, because I use the term marketing malpractice because I used to use sales malpractice in the sales training that I did of like, prescribing a solution or doing a presentation before you know what the problem is that the buyer's trying to solve is sales malpractice. In marketing malpractice, I think using AI to create your blog post, your LinkedIn posts, or everything without doing the marketing strategy, the context, understanding the audience, and having any sort of plan about where you're going is probably marketing malpractice. But what saith the marketing doctor?
I completely agree, and they all should require insurance in order to counter this. What we're seeing is a lot of companies, especially small to mid-size, that started off being sales focused to try and build and scale and realize that you can only hire so many salespeople and you can only shove so much through the pipeline without some help. Well, they've realized that as long as they keep throwing tactics at the marketing department and the marketing department doesn't squeal about not knowing what they're doing, all will be well for a while. What they're missing is the underlying strategy and the audience insight that they need to make that solid and practical and available to the audience so that they can scale. The total addressables, only 5% of what your complete addressable is. So they're focused on the 5 and the other 95 get left behind because there is no strategy to incorporate them into the brand. So what ends up happening is all this AI stuff that people keep pumping at it is all tactically oriented. Every one of them is just, optimize the SEO, optimize the outgoing campaigns, optimize this, that, and the other, and let AI take care of all the bloody stuff in the middle. It doesn't work without being told what to do properly. You got to tell it what to do.
Well, there's that, but you and I have also talked about if you ask AI to optimize something, what it's going to optimize is for the most generic crap possible.
Absolutely. It's a drive to mediocrity.
It's not trained on experts, right? For sales, it was really easy to say. Did you know that right now, over 53% of salespeople will miss quota this year? So if you took AI and said, "Hey, learn from all of the salespeople in the world," it would miss quota. It would go towards the mean, and it would be average young. So we have to do something to get it to focus on the high performers, the stuff that works, the things that you're talking about. Putting in the context and the plan is what directs it to the top 20% of performers, not the middle, right?
Right. I mean, even the term best practices is a drive to the center, because you're taking what worked for one particular company or two particular companies and broadening it over the whole palette. You're never going to get the kind of results that they got because your circumstances are not the same. So again, we've got one set of parameters here that are given to be a win, and then we're throwing everybody else at a different set of parameters and wondering why it doesn't work. If you have a strategy that underlies your marketing program for your particular company and your particular audience and your particular product and your particular brand, that's not necessarily going to work for somebody, even in the same sector, in the same category, because they're different. You can't, put a Band-Aid on an open heart surgery. It's not going to work.
I love that. So I think that takes us to your book here in the survival notes. What are some of the ways to solve this problem?
Well, the prescription tends to be knowing your customer better and making sure that you're only automating processes work already. Because what will happen is they'll say, "Oh, we'll just automate this process and it'll be fine." What happens is it tends to tumble on itself. And we talked about driving to the middle. This drives to the end, and the end is finite. You're not going to scale with that. You're just going to tumble off the side, and it's going to plateau. So instead of optimizing upwards, it optimizes downwards.
Process, we can fail faster, right?
Yes. Well, that's what agile business was, is fail faster. But the problem is they left off the other half, which is learn quicker and fix it based on the results. AI doesn't do that terribly well. It doesn't loop back on itself and say, "Oh, that didn't work, I'll fix it," without the feedback loop to tell it didn't work. Because you're not providing that. You're providing a prompt for an output rather than a loop that says constantly improve this until we get X result. You're missing half of the solution. And the reason the book is titled that way is I trained as a physician, worked in Harvard teaching hospitals in Boston, and nice. did very well as a doc. But I realized there were other paths that might be a little more lucrative with managed care. So I kind of bailed out into marketing. But the scientific method that they drilled into my head during those years applies beautifully to marketing. It's exactly the same thing. You posit a hypothesis, you build an experiment to test it, you read the results, you learn from the output, and you fix it. It's the same do loop that we get into with business and with marketing specifically in testing campaigns and optimizing campaigns and optimizing digital outreach and SEO and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I say that the human first in the title of this podcast really means all humans. So your customers first, your employees first, and do the work as a human first before you leverage AI. But I think that also includes what you're saying, human in the middle and human last as well. Right?
You have to, because without the result, you're never going to get better. If you're not buying, they'll say, "Well, all those people raised their hand and filled out a form and did this and that." That doesn't feed the bulldog. It's where the cash lies that you got to get to, the result at the end, whether they actually bought the thing or not, and whether they came back a second time to buy it again. None of that gets incorporated into the prompt.
What are you seeing that's working these days?
I'm noticing that one of the best applications of AI I've seen in actual practical usage is some of the personalized cold email outreach, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. The AI is able to scrape a website and cogently pull together sentences that personalize things directly to that guy. based on bios and directory listings and everything he's involved in. It's a deep scrape, but boy, howdy, that 2-line or 3-line email sounds like it's built right for you. And it talks about very specific things. It's probably 75% accurate, which sure as heck beats the scattergun approach we've taken without it. So, and I'm noticing
or even
results
worse,
are
you
showing it.
send the same cold email about you to
Everybody,
10,000
or the
people.
list slips and you get the wrong misalignment and they send the wrong thing. Yeah, I've seen that a lot. It's just a smarter way to do the same thing. Now, that's not to say that stuffing people's inbox is the greatest way to go, certainly. But the higher the level of personalization and the better that headline is, the better your results are going to be, and at least gaining some engagement and some response. Once it's to that level, then it's up to the rest of the branding and the rest of the marketing and the actual sales to support all that. You've kicked the trigger. Now, can you catch the bullet? That's really the trick here.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I've done that for one of my clients and had success right away in the
It
first
does.
10 campaigns that we put out and target accounts that we went after. And it takes a little bit of work. We honed it in. We put a lot of effort in there. And I think some companies and brands like to take a contrarian approach too. So you got to, work with the companies to build something that speaks in your voice and to the customer's pain points and stuff. But I do think it's really great for things like that where humans aren't really great at cold outreach and handling rejection and doing something a 1,000 times in order to learn the one way that works. So
We don't
there
have the
are,
patience anymore. The machines have taken away our attention span and our patience to the point where nobody's willing to slog through 1,000 of anything. Our brains can't even conceive what 1,000 looks like. So if it's not 10, all the lists, think how many listicles you've read that start with 10. Or 5 or 7 or whatever the mean is. They all drive to impatience. They all drive to immediate satisfaction. There's no delayed gratification anymore anywhere. So slogging through 1,000 to get 10 hits to get one customer is unthinkable these days. You got to find a way for the machines to do the grunt work.
Yeah, I agree, especially with rejection and emotional stuff like that, where humans just give up super fast.
Yes, we do.
I think that's fascinating. And then what you're talking about with the rest of the stuff too, it's important to have humans jump into that process once you connect with somebody and to have things to back it up. I see a lot of people not finishing the funnel and not doing the hard work on the back end to keep the customers or to make sure that they get results. And that to me is just a recipe for disaster. I don't see a lot of AI, and maybe it could be where I'm looking, but aimed at how do we have better relationships with our clients? How do we make sure that they never leave? Right?
I have to agree. Retention is the other half of the equation that people often ignore. Everybody's focused on get new customers, grow and scale, grow and scale. Well, that's great, but if 85% of the ones you just spent a fortune to gather disappear in 6 months, you're not doing much good. You're not really scaling. You're just rolling forward. It's a rolling average that looks good on reports in the quarterly, but come 2 years down the line, you're still where you started. It just cost you a fortune to get there. You got to keep the people you're at, and you've got to make them not only satisfied, which is a word I hate. No customer is satisfied or they wouldn't buy again. Satisfied is the table stakes. That's the baseline. What you want is, would they recommend you to your grandmother? And that's really the key to satisfaction and brand loyalty is, will they come back? Were they absolutely thrilled with it? Will they tell other people about it? They were so happy. Now, the reverse corollary of that is if you really do such an awesome job and you're in such high demand, I'm not giving away that secret. I'm not telling anybody about you because I want you for myself. So there's always that. But in big brand stuff where there's no shortage of product and there's no urgency to it at all, that pass along is critical. You've got to have people out there evangelizing for you and your brand and your products, or they're going to fall flat. And social media is the ultimate proof of this, because all that is an impersonal referral. When you post something with a picture and the restaurant name under it of your dinner, for God's sake, sure enough, that restaurant's going to get a bump just because 19,000 people that are on your list saw it. Somebody's going to get out there and give it a try. So again, these are impersonal referrals, but they still work. So getting the human on your side is still the critical part in the equation in scaling and growth.
Yeah, I love that. And I think if you're going to grow, you obviously have to put more in than you're taking out. And so one of the easiest ways to flip that that equation is to keep people longer, and then you don't have to put as much in to grow. If you kept all your clients throughout the year, you only have to add one to grow.
Yeah, it costs 8 times as much to get a new customer as it does to keep one. 8 times. Think about what that looks like for your outreach budget, and think about what that looks like for sending 12 referral and reference emails a year to somebody on a drip. Cheapo. Awesome. Come on, guys. Keep in touch. Let me know what's going on.
I'm going to change gears here a little bit because you said Midjourney was your favorite AI tool when I asked you to fill out the form like a couple of months ago. Is that still at the top of your list? And what are you doing with that?
Well, I like it because it's more toy-like. One, it's very intuitive. The prompts are neat, and we're talking about instant gratification. You type a few words and you pop the thing in there, and this fantastical image appears. Really, really neat toy. Don't use it directly for marketing very often because I have people to do that for me. But it's nice to experiment with. And if I really need a particular image that I have to hone in on, to hammer home a point, and I can't find one, I can always go there and create it. ChatGPT is still the workhorse. If you're using version 4 or 4.5 or whatever the newest one is, there's very little that you can't get some value out of in literally minutes. And so I use it for things like getting organized on outlines and drawing together what looks like reasonable slides after I've gathered all the data, summarizing for case studies and things like that. It works very well. But you've got to start writing the prompt the way you want it to sound like you, and you've got to go back in and edit when you're done. You can't just submit what you get. It won't work. I mean, college students figured this out years ago. You're going to get busted. So you got to edit. And this silliness about looking for the M dash, I don't know where that came from, but it needs to be killed immediately. There's no.
I had a fight yesterday. I was a little cranky, so I'm going to overshare here a little bit, but I have put in all my custom GPTs, like do not use the M dash, use, separate sentences or colon or commas, whatever. I don't care. Just do not use the M dash. And it put like 3 into this blog article that I ran for a client. And I was like, do not use an M dash ever for any of writings, any questions under any circumstances. Do not use an M dash. And it replied, got it, M dash. I won't use it again.
So, your chat has a sense of humor. I love it.
Yeah. So I had to look at it, and I just thought, I was like, you know what? I want to test this a little bit. And I said, did you just use an M dash in that answer? And it said, yes, sorry, M dash.
There's no avoiding this. It's a grammatical.
I just lost it. I was like, I want you to look between the word sorry and what is that symbol? And I kept arguing with it. And I don't know how to fix it other than just keep reviewing it and taking it out.
Yeah, but that's a good driver. If you have to dig in to find those, you're obviously going to find other things too that you want to change. And that's all part of the subtractive editing process. Tends to overshare, tends to pad. Copy is not what I would use for that. I don't use it for copy because it's not a human and it's not talking to humans. And that's what good marketing copy is. It's one human talking to another human that just happens to have multiple brothers and sisters that are all the same. So it's really, you got to humanize the thing. And no matter how many times you give it a voice sample, either in writing or in audio record, no matter what you do to that thing, it's never going to be a human being. It's never going to have empathy. It's never going to feel like that person on the other end of that copy feels. It's reading it.
You got to do it. I heard a new buzzword yesterday that I love. It's degenerative AI, which is, I think, it sums up the problem that I see with marketers a lot that you're talking about, which is if you give it a sentence and ask it to write a blog post for you that's 800 words, it's got to generate a lot of fluff, a lot of filler in there. However, if you give it your 800-word blog post and you ask it to write a title or you ask it to write a LinkedIn post from that, all of a sudden it does better. We're degenerating. We're
it does a nice job of summarizing in general.
And that's why I love
to take a book and do the cliff notes. AI is your friend because it's really going to do a good job of that because it's learned through cadence and persistence and word count and number of times words appear. It's learned to get out redundancy. It's patterned to look after patterns and reduce redundancy. So when it sees the same word 50 times, not only is it going to find a new way to say that same word and put it in place, which broadens its vocabulary a little, but it's also going to sound more human because we tend to vary our speech depending on the audience.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting, and people have to dive in here and understand how these tools work, like you're saying, because any strength to an extreme is a weakness. So that is one of its strengths, but also what it does with that generative AI is that if you ask it to do repeat prompts or you ask it to write 12 blog posts, after the first 10, it gets creative. It's like, I don't like this anymore. Let me throw in new words. Let
It's
me
like it
change
gets
that
bored.
brand or that copyrighted phrase or that product name. Let me rewrite it because it's using that creativity in a way that's destructive then.
It goes off the rails relatively easy because it sounds like it gets bored. It's
Yeah,
just
it
tired of
does.
saying the same thing the same way, which is what marketing is about. Consistency and persistence are your best friends. And if you can achieve those, that's great, because it takes what, I think 7 or 12 touches before someone actually pays attention to what you're doing in advertising and marketing in general.
Yeah.
By the fourth blog post, he said the same phrase 9 times. You've got your 7 touches. I should be able to go on to do something else. And you
Yep.
can't, because these are not metered the same way. So again, it's a matter of humans knowing a system that may not have been codified anywhere in the language model, so that it's not getting the little subtle hints and the hidden rules that are unspoken or unwritten. It doesn't have those to reference. So it's just going on what it sees. Again, it's still
I think
dumb
that's
data.
a huge lesson. I learned that in my 20s when I was on the radio, because we have to just repeat the lines, and we have to remind people what station they're listening to every
How
3 to
many
5
times can you
minutes,
say the call letters and the time?
Yeah, and we were the new E105 for 7 years. Because compared to all the other radio stations, we were still new, but also new people were finding it all of the time. So it's new to them. But yeah, it was really funny, and it is about the time as a business owner when you're getting sick of your message and you think it's not working, that other people are just starting to hear it. And that's a huge marketing lesson for anybody that's made it this far into the podcast. Just don't give up. Now tweak and iterate and get better, but man, it takes a lot more than you think in reinforcement and testing to get
Oh,
that
absolutely.
viable outcome.
Campaigns get killed all the time for 2 reasons. One, lack of funding support, and lack of patience.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to eat the apple off the tree you planted yesterday. You got to wait. It's going to have to grow and evolve and warm and spread. You've got to let it evolve, or again, just the first 2% of people that saw it the first time are the only ones you're ever going to touch. Not a big enough audience to scale anything. You got to let it iterate a few times and let it get out there. Give people time to pass it along, hit it again, come back and review. Human beings are busy. We're little bees out there running around, and we don't have time to absorb all these tens of thousands of messages we're bombarded with every day. But if your 10,001st is the same one they saw 2 days ago, they're going to remember it. And the next time they see it, and the next time they see it, that's why when you're doing digital outreach, the retargeting function is so valuable.
Mm.
No one knows the gold that's hiding in that retargeting, because boy, howdy, it really ramps up your results fast, and it's practically free.
Yeah. And you're marketing to people that are already targets, right? You're
Sure.
retargeting. So it's a much better list than reaching out to random strangers that have never visited your website, never showed any kind of interest and stuff there. We've hit some major marketing philosophies and some cool tech here. So we're hitting both sides of the coin. But before I let you go, Dave, I wanted to ask you about the future of marketing. Where do you think this ends up in the next 5, 10 years? What does marketing look like in 2035?
I think a lot of the drudge work is going to be gone, because we'll have automated it or made it automatic, or built feedback loops to let it run on its own for a while, which is dangerous, because as we talked about, it could go off the rails. And if you're not monitoring carefully, you could get in some very deep trouble very quickly. And automation moves much faster than humans do. You're going to get there much quicker than you thought. On the other hand, you can look at it as all this automation of repetitive tasks and known processes does free up human beings to do some creative thinking and to communicate with each other in a one-to-one basis. I base every engagement I have on customer insight research. I sit down and talk for an hour with customers, 20, 30, 40 of them at a time sometimes for a client. I really get to know what those people like, don't like, prefer, hate, would rather do without. and understand why they don't like what they like and why they do like what they like. Those kind of understandings now have time to breathe and time to iterate and time to evolve a little bit. And now that can be even more practically added to what the AI is doing. So now, instead of having one or two strategies, you can have 9 or 10 because the AI has taken all the repetitiveness away, ganged up the common tasks into a process, and is blowing past those things. All you got to do is feed the tidbits into the end of the machine, and it'll take it from there. This is very positive for marketing. What I'm also seeing, though, is this move to the middle when we're having AI write blog posts and social media stuff and influencers not being where they ever were. I saw one yesterday. There was a gal sitting at Wimbledon. She was never there, and she doesn't exist.
So
We're going to have a lot of that kind of problem. And it starts to create legal issues as well when you think about it. That particular aspect of things, I guarantee you put an AI generated image in front of a judge of a suspect robbing a convenience store and the real thing, and he won't be able to tell which one is the suspect. I promise. People are going to go and have tremendous legal problems by using photographs as evidence. We're not going to be able to do it anymore without expertise and some kind of mechanical intervention to determine whether this thing is actually real. Video is the same way. There's a studio in Hollywood that is doing nothing but AI generated movies. They're targeted for 50 movies, I think, this year. Tried making 50 movies from a single studio. And get this, the budget, $500,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Hollywood's swimming in all this stuff. And they don't understand how easy this would be for these guys to pump out an entire 2-hour movie. There's not a location. There's not a set. There's not a special effect. There's not a camera. There's nothing. It's just two guys sitting in front of a PC cranking this thing out. And that one guy to write the script and one guy to monitor the artwork. And away you go. All those craft people, all the trades people, all the location scouts, product placements, all that stuff, gone. Hollywood's going to lose its mind.
Yeah, well, I think for me, there's a lot to this, just like we were talking about with marketing, that, you know, powerful storytellers and artisan creations are still going to be a thing. There's still people that ride horses, you know what I mean, 100 years later. But it does make it that much harder, like you said, to tell reality or to learn these tools. And when we start making more slop and more blog posts and more movies, we'll make more good ones, but we'll also make a lot more bad ones and a lot more stuff.
Everything's faster. Right? Flops will come out quicker, and so will blockbusters. Think about the terms of the tools in the hands of a wrongdoer for political propaganda. That we've seen this already.
Yeah,
fake images of presidents, recordings of them saying things and doing things. The blackmail possibilities alone are endless. So
I want to, give you one more take on how you think it shakes out like 30 years from now, because I have some hope that I think, I told college professors, I'm on the board of a large community college in their marketing department, and I just said, look, essays are dead 2 years ago. I was like, you can't. They're like, well, we have plagiarism checkers, and I go, there's plagiarism checker breakers. Like, you can't just continue to escalate this on top of one another. It's not going to work. So how are you going to teach without that? Like, sorry, that one's gone. Like you said, for lawyers and police investigators, guess what? Images, they're gone. You can't trust them anymore. How can you prove that a crime happened without an image or without trusting the video footage? Or how can you prove that it's real? Like, it's just a new, to me, problem to solve. And that's the way life always works. It's just crazy that it's happening bigger and faster every single year, that this is the most sane it's going to be for the rest of our lifetimes.
There's nowhere to go but down from here.
Well, how do you think it shakes out? What's your either ideal vision for humanity or most likely vision?
Well, the ideal is that we will eventually harness this in an appropriate way, and cooler heads will prevail. There'll be some sort of mechanism that will put boundaries and guardrails around the use of this stuff, so that, or at least for a pause, so that the good guys can catch up with the bad guys. They're always the innovators. Think about it. What drives technological innovation? Somebody breaking what we already have to beat around our security. And it just
taking more than their fair share.
Ladders its way up. So what we've got to do is put a pause in there to give us time to catch up. By the time we do that, and we put some parameters around this thing and its usage, and maybe it's a legal solution, maybe it's a technological one, Maybe there's some sort of central compliance department where everybody has to submit everything for, a reality check before it's verified with a little blue check mark. Who knows? But somehow we're going to have to separate ourselves and our own craft from what the machines have created, so that there is a stark and noticeable difference between the two, and allow people a choice. AI is good. Good is good enough, which is how every industry has gone. The printing industry went to a good enough standard a long time ago. Surely the copywriting industry is heading towards a good enough standard at this point with AI. We're starting to see everything sort of drive not to quality, but to acceptable. And I think that's
Which
a
I
bad
think is fine. Again, in most cases, like the DPI on printers, it can only be so small. We can't see as humans a variable difference between something that's higher resolution at this point on our screens or our printing. And I think that same thing in a way that like fast food exists, but good restaurants still exist, right? That
Sure.
good
You have
enough
a choice.
packaged food and fast food is good enough. It'll keep you alive for the most part. But people still want better, and people still want human made. They still want a chef to make them an interesting dish they've never had before. And I think that ultimately that's where we'll end up, as some sort of spectrum of all of these things existing in the same
They can
place. But
coexist with no question. It's a question
awesome
of
conversation.
making them clarified so that and you're making an informed choice. Give people a choice, but make sure both the choices are non-lethal, and that you can say, I'd like this one versus this one. And then it's still the price value trade-off at that point.
Love it. Dave, thanks for your time. Dave Poulos, you can find him at davidpoulos.com. And the book is The Marketing Doctor's Survival Notes. You can find that at the website, or I'm sure you can find it at other booksellers as well. Dave, last question for you is, how can you help us, or how can we help you? I appreciate the time.
The biggest help you can do is tell everybody that marketing is an essential business function. It is not, there for sales support, and it's not there to make pretty pictures. We are there to help you grow, and we do that by knowing the customer and being the voice of the customer internally. If you know middle market businesses that are floundering, that are having trouble, that are not getting all their marketing and sales ducks in a row, by all means, have them reach out to me. There are packages and programs for every budget and every size, and you'd be surprised what small things can make a big difference.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you also gave a pretty good pitch for what I do at Avenue 9 here today, too, because what we're trying to do is interview your founder, your best client, your top salesperson, add context to the AI that can generate better stuff. And then we're doing that degenerative AI where we're distilling your stories into the meaty goodness and getting that out to your audience in whatever storytelling methods make sense for you. Also, doing a lot of deep dive here recently on AI engine optimization, or answer engine optimization, and some really cool stuff that we can do to help get your story into the learning models for AI, which I think is a fascinating new place for me. So if that's interesting to you, go to avenue9.com. Until next time, keep going. Have fun with it, everybody. See ya.